All right, thank you everybody for being here. I'm Kurt Seiler. I'm the city engineer for the city of Mason. And tonight we're going to talk about the Kings Mills and 741 intersection improvement project. We're all well aware of the congestion that occurs at that intersection, continually backs up. Our focus for this project is to find a solution that's going to reduce congestion and provide the safest long-term alternative for the project. It continues to fail, and it's been getting worse. And again, our focus is to find the safest long-term fix. So the agenda for today's presentation, I'm going to give a brief history of the 741 corridor. We're going to talk about the current issues with the existing intersection. We'll go over some traffic count data, both past data that we have and some projected data. And then we're going to look at the three possible solutions that we've explored for the intersection. And then finally where we stand in the design process and next steps. So first, this area of 741 is also referred to as the Mason Bypass, which it was originally built to connect 42 with Kings Mills Road. So circled in red at the bottom there is our intersection. In about 1971, Mason hit 5,000 population and became a city. In 1972, when Kings Island opened, this part of 741 hadn't even begun construction yet. So in 1973, it started. This allowed traffic from the 42 area, rather than go through downtown to get to the newly constructed I-71, they could now go through the Mason Bypass and more easily get to the new highway. This also no improvements. I just want to mention no improvements were done in the Parkside Drive area from there to I-71. Many of you remember the Kings Mills Road was just a two-lane road, really hilly, before it was widened with the next project. ODOT requires us to look out 20 years when we do projects like this. So back in 1973, the 93 projected traffic was about 8,500 vehicles, and in 1996 we were over 13,000 vehicles, so we well exceeded the projected traffic counts. The next project in this corridor, in 1997, we began construction of the widening between Parkside Drive and I-71 with this project, and again our intersection is shown there in red. With this project, we also added a traffic signal at the intersection. Prior to this, it was just a four-way stop and was also the site of a lot of backups. In this project, our 20-year projected counts for 2016 was about 18,000 vehicles, and today we're seeing counts of over 20,000 vehicles a day. So again, we're exceeding the projected traffic counts. So why is this important? The 741 corridor was really built to allow traffic to get to and from the highway from the 42 and the 741 corridor north of Mason. So current issues at this intersection, we have backups in the southbound direction in the AM, also westbound in the PM, significant peak hour backups. We also have a lot of crashes, about 46 crashes in the last 3 years, and half of those were rear-end crashes. That is a typical crash that you would see at a congested intersection where traffic is backing up due to the signal and where the volume of traffic exceeds what the intersection can handle. We also had an uptick in crashes in 2015. We've had 20 crashes alone last year. This year we've already had 15, and 11 of those were rear-end crashes, and that was just through September. We also have the Kroger Weave, and what we mean by that is traffic that's going through the intersection from either making a left turn off Parkside or going north on Kings Mills Road. Has to merge with the traffic that's going through the westbound right turn movement, and the traffic that's trying to reach Kroger has to weave through that continuous line of traffic. That's what we mean when we talk about the Kroger weave on future slides. We also have an issue with trucks going through Parkside Drive. We have it signed out there. We also have it on the pavement, no through trucks, because trucks think that to continue on 741, they go through the intersection rather than making that right turn, and many of them don't realize that it's a right turn to stay on 741. So what's happening is traffic's finding alternate routes. We have more traffic using Hanover Drive, Parkside, Kings Mills Road to access the intersection because of the backups, especially in the southbound direction. We have increasing daily traffic from areas north of the city. We have Otterbein community, the Racino, Ambleside, Carmel, which I'll go over some of that in the next slide, as well as some area attractions. We get traffic peaks after the AM peak. We get another peak for Kings Island and the beach, as well as Great Wolf Lodge and the tennis tournament and volleyball tournaments. So our traffic counts, this line shows basically where we are today. So to the left of the line is earlier counts that we've done, and you can see we were trending upward until about 2009. This is a June count in 2009. The yellow is actually the westbound direction of 741, and the blue is the southbound direction of 741. Green is Kings Mills Road approaching the intersection, and then the red is Parkside Drive. So all of these are volumes of traffic approaching the intersection, going towards the intersection. So for the total intersection count, we were exceeding 30,000 back in 2008, 2009. We did take a dip as the economy dipped. Some of these counts are also October, November counts. And then you can see the difference between an October 13 count to just there this year in July. And we also have another count in October that's really similar, that we're, again, exceeding 30,000 cars a day approaching the intersection. So again, ODOT's requiring us to do projected counts 20 years out. We're using 1.5% growth factor and out to 2040 to get our projections that we've done all of our traffic modeling on. So as I was saying, there's potential growth to justify these numbers. We have over 500 acres of industrial and office ground within the city limits. We also have the Ambleside development that's just beginning to build houses here. We have the Crooked Tree Preserve subdivision with 200 plus houses there. We're continuing to build out the Reserves of Carmel subdivision down here, as well as the Willowbrook subdivision. And that's just within the city of Mason. We also have the Otterbein development, I understand, has 3,000 to 4,000 units possibly, and that's again a long-term plan, as well as the state is looking to sell about 1,000 acres of prison property for future development. So looking in more detail at our counts, this is AM peak counts. So this is showing the volume and the movements through the intersection. So the thicker the line, the higher the volume. And this is, again, traffic approaching the intersection. So this is 741 southbound traffic making the left turn movement. You can see is by far a much higher movement than the through movement in the intersection. And then there is just a couple of cars that do make a southbound right turn. So if we add on to that the westbound movement of 741, you can see that it's fairly evenly distributed between the westbound right turn and westbound left turn movements. Again, this is westbound traffic approaching the intersection. If we add on the Kings Mills traffic, the majority of that traffic makes a right turn, also heading towards the highway. So, and finally, Parkside Drive. So we would as you would expect, the major movements are 741 southbound and 741 westbound. Both the left turn and the right turn movements are really heavy. We expect the growth to occur. If you look back at the previous slide, you'll see that the Kings Mills traffic and Parkside traffic are pretty stable through all the counts that we've done. What fluctuates is the 741 traffic. So this is 2016, and in 2040, We expect that traffic to grow on 741 and look something like this in the next 20 years. So what if we don't do anything? What if we just leave the intersection as it is today? People will start to back up more on 741. Our projections are that it'll be about a 3,000-foot backup, which is almost to Stone Ridge Drive. With that, people will start finding alternate routes. They're going to start using more and more the Kings Mills Road intersection, the Mason Morrow Millgrove Road corridor. They're going to take Mason Morrow Millgrove to Columbia and take the back way to the highway. They're also going to start cutting through the intersections. So traffic may begin to, if they're coming out of, let's say, the Carmel subdivision, they see traffic backed up, they might start to come in Stone Ridge Drive and cut through to get to Parkside to get to the highway that way. So we've explored 3 solutions to the intersection, and the first is a dual left southbound turn lane, and I'll let Ed talk about each of these solutions, but we also had to, with this solution, add a westbound left turn lane because of that heavy movement that I showed you earlier. We looked at a roundabout. It required a 2-lane roundabout because of both today's traffic and the future traffic. And then we also looked at realignment of 741. And again, our goals for these alternatives were to reduce congestion on 741, reduce the accidents, improve safety, and prevent the additional cut-through traffic in the residential areas. So with that, I'll have Ed Williams from TEC come up. Ed is a professional engineer. He's also a certified professional traffic operations engineer, project manager with 15 years experience. And he's done a multitude of projects in the region and many within the city of Mason here. So, Ed.
Thank you, Kurt. We'll go through each of the solutions that Kurt mentioned and talk about some of the issues with it. Before we get into it, I'll talk about how we grade intersections. Typically, we give an intersection a level service grade. So it's A through F, just like you're in school. A is good, F is not so good. So F is failing. So we try to give those intersections a grade. What happens, however, sometimes is when you have congested conditions, your levels of service aren't always true. So we look at other factors, for instance, such as delay and queuing backups. So to give you an example, we've worked on several projects with other consultants and by ourselves in the Fields-Ertl area. In general, in the Fields-Ertl area, if you do a level of services analysis for Fields-Ertl, every single intersection would come up at a level service C. And obviously that's not correct. If you've driven through the area, there's a lot of queuing, and so you see those issues when you start to look at the traffic queues and the delays for each intersection. So when I talk about the levels of service, that's what I'm talking about, and why I go into further depth on queues. Also, I'll mention that in the 20-year traffic, we try to look at a level service C. It's acceptable. We're looking at 20 years from now. We're projecting into the future traffic growth for 20 years. So a level service C is what we try to obtain. You could always design for level service A or B, but a level service C is what we can realistically try to get to. And finally, I'll mention a lot of the numbers that I'm going to talk about. We have looked at the corridor as a whole, including 741 and 42, and many of you know that 42 and 741 tends to back up at times through this intersection. We did not want that to skew our numbers. We really wanted to compare apples to apples. So when I talk about backups, when I talk about levels of service, I'm talking about this intersection by itself, although we do have analysis including the entire corridor. So the first thing we looked at was the dual lanes. As Kurt mentioned, there are left turns, dual lefts for the westbound direction as well as the southbound direction. As part of this design to accommodate the dual southbound lefts, we had to eliminate the slip ramp right for the northbound traffic because you need 2 receiving lanes for that. In addition, for the dual westbound lefts, we have to have 2 receiving lanes on the Kings Mills approach, and then those 2 lanes quickly merge into 1. One of the issues that creates is if you've ever turned left and you know one of those lanes disappears, you do have an issue where most of the people will get into one lane and just wait. And so you will get a lot of people in this left turn lane because they know if you turn left here, you're going to have to merge south of the intersection. And so that is one of the issues with this design. Similarly, for the southbound traffic, everyone knows that this right-hand lane is the lane you need to be in to go to southbound 71. So a lot of people will be in that lane knowing that they want to eventually get onto southbound 71. So this is a temporary solution only because we are seeing failing levels of service by 2040. As I mentioned, it requires 2 southbound and 2 westbound left turn lanes. It does not eliminate the weave at Kroger. Obviously, there's the weave issue up north here, but also this creates an issue where you want to go northbound on Kings Mills, and this person is turning right from westbound, and the weave issue happens getting into either one of the Kroger access points. And I'll mention the one thing that we can talk about with regards to safety is a conflict point diagram. You can see all the red dots represent conflict points in an intersection where an accident could happen because of two vehicles colliding. So you can see this conflict diagram. We see 29 points of conflict because of this intersection, and a lot of that is because of the dual southbound lefts and dual westbound lefts. You do have a lot more conflict points in the middle of that intersection where an accident could happen because of those dual lefts. So a second option that we looked at was a 2-lane roundabout. This has a level of service C or below by 2040. We are still seeing queuing issues because of this. So for instance, in the southbound direction, we're still seeing about a 1,100-foot queue because of this, and because I'll explain about the lane utilization a little bit, but we do still see a large queue for the southbound traffic. There's 2 circular lanes needed, so this is a large roundabout. It's somewhat complicated, and we do have to accommodate truck traffic because there is a lot of truck traffic going through this intersection, coming to and from the locations to the north. One of the things about roundabouts that make them great is they do like to have even distribution. So in locations where we have even traffic distribution, the roundabouts tend to work really, really well. This is a location where you have a lot of traffic going westbound, a lot of traffic going southbound, not as much traffic eastbound and northbound, so the distribution is not there. The Kroger weave remains, and in some cases, because of the free flow condition, could be slightly worse with a roundabout than what it would be with some of the other options. And finally, the congestion continues for the AM and the PM peaks. I'll show you the conflict point diagram. Again, the red dots mean the places where conflicts could happen. With the level of traffic traveling southbound as well as westbound that want to turn left, we would need to accommodate dual lefts. And what that means is that you can see right here, you would have to exit the center lane in order to go southbound as well as the outside lane. So that does create some issues there, as well as coming southbound and then traveling, eastbound on 741. You can see both lanes exit, and that does create additional conflict points, and it makes it more of a complicated roundabout. Finally is the realignment of 741. This option does provide a level service C by 2040. It makes 741 a through movement. Right now, the 2 major movements through this intersection are southbound left and the westbound right. So this design does accommodate that by making those a through movement at the intersection, allowing the intersection to work much more efficiently. It improves the safety with fewer left turn movements, and we'll see the conflict diagram in a second. It does eliminate the Kroger weave. We don't have the people on Kings Mills trying to go through the intersection at the same time as the right turn overlap, the right turn slip ramp that we get for westbound traffic, and so that makes it a little bit more safer, especially for the Kroger entrances. And it reduces or eliminates the potential for the cut-through truck traffic on Parkside. The truck traffic does not try to drive straight through the intersection and ending up on Parkside as a result. So you can see here the the conflict point diagram, we're down to 8 conflict points because of the reduction in turning movements at the intersection. The one thing this does is, given the change of the intersection, the operation of Parkside will need to change. So we've proposed a tie-in at Kings Mills. We are reviewing the movements in and out of this. This is not by any means the final option for this. However, it is going to have to change. One of the things that we will be changing this winter is, given the current backups that we're seeing for the traffic, we are going to be changing the phasing of the traffic signal to allow it to rest on green for southbound through and left. And what that means is that there will be slightly more delay for Parkside, and that's going to continue to get worse as the traffic on 741 increases. So that change will be coming with some additional equipment that we'll be installing at Parkside. That'll be coming this winter. So just when that does happen, just be aware that that's because of changes that we're making at the signal. Parkside will no longer it won't rest in green for them anymore. It'll rest in green for the southbound through and left. So with that, I'll turn it back to Kurt to finish up.
Thanks, Ed. So next steps. We have already applied for grant funding towards 2020 construction. We've been awarded that. So we are continuing on a preliminary design and establishing where the right-of-way might be needed for the project. The right-of-way limits will determine how much environmental work we need to do, and also leads us to our public involvement meeting that we're required to have likely next fall. So that'll happen, and you would all be notified regarding that meeting. That's where we can, we'll notify properties that are impacted by the project specifically, so that they can come out and voice any concerns with the preliminary design of the project. We'll also review, as Ed said, project alignment, so maybe changes in the alignment for the Parkside connection. Once complete, this improvement should provide a long-term solution to the 741 traffic with reduced congestion, less accidents, and increased pedestrian options, which we didn't really talk a lot about, but we are adding bike paths and pedestrian options with the project. We'll also have capacity for future growth and ability to handle traffic for our regional events that we have, as well as regional attractions in the area. Again, construction is anticipated to begin in 2020, and with that, here's our contact information. If you have any questions, please feel free to visit our website. This is a new website that we established called projectmason.com, and we plan on adding additional projects to the website as we can throughout the winter. But right now, 741 is on there, and all of the boards that are displayed can be found on the website, and you can email in any comments or questions that you have as well. So with that, thanks for being here. Once is enough.